What's up, you guys? It's your girl Mahogany Roots here, and I'm back at you again with another video. So here we are, you guys, episode 7, House of the Dragon. It starts out on Driftmark. We start out with a scene where Damon's wife has passed on. If you guys didn't see the last episode, she killed herself by dragon fire. She didn't believe she was going to make it through childbirth, and she had her dragon set her on fire. So Lena, they're at her funeral. The family's all together. And from the very beginning, I mean, Damon is just as rude and as trifling as he could be. He claims that he loves this woman, but you never see him shed a tear. There's even a moment when her uncle is giving the speech at the funeral where he starts laughing. Pretty despicable. He never once really seemed remorseful, and I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that's him trying to hide his feelings. I'm not sure. I really haven't figured Damon out yet. But at the funeral, he's also like flirting with his niece, Rhaenyra. They're playing eye tag with each other. It's quite disgusting. The woman isn't even cold in the ground yet. Speaking of that, the Valerians are known for living by sea, so they actually send her back to the ocean. Um, versus the Targaryens, their whole code is by fire. So at the funeral, they release her body to the sea. At this moment in time, you can see, if you scope the scene out, you can see half the family's on one side and the other half's on another. This is a family full of contention. Uh, her brother, I'm not sure if that's her twin brother, but her brother, who's married to Rhaenyra, uh, sort of drifts off into his own world in the sea as if he wants to be near his sister. So at the funeral scene, you have a lot of little sidebar conversations going on all at once. One of the conversations happened between King Viserys and his brother Damon. He pretty much asked Damon to come back. Let the past be the past. Come back to King's Landing with me. Of course, Damon is pissed off because he was pretty much thrown out of King's Landing for his actions that he took with Rhaenyra and banned from King's Landing. So now he's like, you know what? He's still bitter about that. He's bitter that Viserys never gave him permission to marry Rhaenyra, and so he's irritated. He walks off. Another conversation, you see the sons of Alicent talking about successions, talking about, we find out that Alicent has betrothed her oldest son, Aegon, and her middle child, Helena, to marry. And um, Aegon is basically disgusted by her. You see her kind of playing with a spider, giving a prophecy. You hear her talking about spinning webs of black and green. If you guys don't know this yet, so she is prophesizing the future war between the dragons, right? And so the high towers wear green, that's their house colors are green, and the Targaryens and the Valerians are black. Okay, so she's prophesizing a future war between them. She's talking about the webs of black and green. So Alicent's son, Aegon and Aemon, are discussing the succession, his marriage to his sister Helena, and of course he's in disgust with it, but that's because he'd rather run around and have sex with the servants of the castle and drink and get drunk and masturbate out windows. This kid is a complete disaster in the making, I can just tell. And his brother Aemond is not much different. We'll get to him in a second. But the irony in those two being betrothed, I find that very ironic. Do you guys remember in earlier scenes prior where Alicent referred to the Targaryens' traditions of intermarriage and, of the whole thing being, what did she call it? Queer traditions. Isn't that what she told Rhaenyra? But yes, she's planning on marrying her two children together. So see, I don't know if you guys are picking up on this, but we're starting to see a lot of contradictions with Allison, and I honestly believe that it's due to the years spent doing the right thing and it making her extremely bitter. She's even her the way she parents the children. It's very kind of cold Somebody who's supposed to not care about successions is heavily involved with successions. Of course, a lot of that has to do with her father, who we see has been reinstated as the king's hand. But a lot of that is just flat old bitterness that's starting to show. We could say that it's protecting her children to some extent, but to a greater, larger extent, I think she has become what she never wanted to be, which is a Targaryen at heart. So you also have this scene, and it's very short, but it's very pertinent to what's going on with the King Viserys. You see King Viserys saying that he's leaving. He turns to Alicent, his queen, and tells her, but he calls her Emma. So this lets you know the importance of Alicent in the king's eyes, okay? And she knows this. She feels this. She sensed this. She was chosen out of necessity. I'm sure through years of having children and stuff, there's a love that grows there, but she is not the king's true love. She has never been. She has been a breeder for the king, and she knows this, she feels this, and she's very bitter because of this. But it also lets you know the mind of the king. The king is slowly, with his age, losing his mind. He's losing his memory. He's losing a grasp. So that one little phrase is very, very important. We cannot let this slip past. Also, there is a moment with Rhaenyra and one of her sons, I believe Lysaris, right? The middle child. She tells Lysaris to be kind to his cousins, right? That they are blood, and that they lost their mother, and that he should go over and be kind. Now, if you didn't give this too much thought, or if you didn't know Rhaenyra the way we're learning to know Rhaenyra, I believe this woman is very strategic, and there's nothing that she does without strategy in the back of her mind. Because we see her later on walking the beach with Damon, um, you know, supposedly catching up with the old times, and not much soon thereafter, they end up, laying it down on the beach somewhere. Keep in mind, this man's husband, excuse me, Damon's wife, honey. The body is yet not yet cold, honey, and they got time to lay it down on the beach somewhere. Trifling, child, just trifling. But even at that, she got time to strategize and make her moves, honey, and get in where she fit in. So now she senses there's a weakness with her husband Lenore, which we all know. She admits to Damon that the marriage was a farce, but she does let us know that they did try to actually they did consummate the marriage, but to no avail. They did not have any offspring due to the consummation, and that the consummation wasn't even enjoyed on her part or his. So she lets him know that the marriage was a farce, and just pretty much lays it all on the table. Uh, you know, which I don't. I'm honestly, I was sitting there thinking, you don't even have to say this. Like, that's the whole thing with her children. Her children obviously are not of blood. They don't have the classic Targaryen features, the silver hair, the white hair, and in the book, the purple eyes. They do not look like Targaryens. So I don't think it was to his surprise that these were not, Lennar's kids. Okay. All right. So before this actually happens, let's go back to Corlys and his wife. Okay. They're back at their quarters. They're having a discussion about succession, right? That's all anybody cares about. And she is saying to her husband, Corlys, she is saying that they need to name one of Lyanna's daughters, I believe Baylor, to be the next to rule Driftmark. And of course, Corliss, who's a complete hypocrite, says, no, why would we name a girl, um, a succession over a grandson, which is one of Rhaenyra's children. And she just tells him flat out, are you crazy? Why would you name somebody that you know is not your blood? I mean, because like we just discussed, Rhaenyra's kids are obviously not of Valerian or Targaryen blood. They do not look They do not have the features. They are not in the bloodline. And it's obvious to look at them, okay? And one thing that I find about Corliss that's quite aggravating to me is that he's a hypocrite. He claims, and she's calling him out on all his BS. He claims to be, so upset about his wife. His wife is also known as the queen that never was, right? She was supposed to become queen. She never did because they did not want, King's Landing at that time did not want a woman ruler. Okay. And so the same thing that he's so supposed to be so up in arms about, really, as far as his wife not being on the throne, it's not about her being on the throne. He wants to be on the goddamn throne, or as close to it as he can be. But it's the same thing, that is reason why he's choosing Rhaenyra's son versus his own blood granddaughter, Lyanna's child, to be ruler over Driftmark. We can assume, that he's against that. You can tell by the conversation that they're having. So I find him incredibly hypocritical, and this annoys me. Okay, so after Damon and Rhaenyra's trifling ass getting on the beach, we see that Alicent's second child, Aemond, is approaching Vagar. Vagar is the largest dragon, period, the largest and the oldest dragon of the land, honey. And Vagar also happens to be the dragon of Lyanna, who just died. And so common sense will tell you that that dragon should go to one of Lyanna's children. They should have a say. Of course, Aemond, being a spoiled brat, does not care, doesn't take into consideration. I'm noticing so far, Allison's kids are kind of crude. And I don't know if that's the upbringing of just being spoiled as the king's children. I'm not sure what that's about, but they're just kind of crude and heartless so far. That's the way they come off to me. But anyway, he, you know, with some pushback, okay, Vagar did not, there was a moment where I thought Vagar was going to burn his ass up, but he didn't. He was able to mount her. He did his little trip up in the sky, up and down and around. Okay, he was up there screaming like a biatch. Okay, finally came, brought it back home, honey, and he was beating his chest. Okay, he thought he was somebody, honey, but when he came back, his cousins, honey, Leanna's kids were not happy, and they got to tussling and fighting. Um, Up in there, which is understandable, but it was really out of control. There were no adults around, no adult supervision, and these kids were slaying each other, hitting each other in the head with stones. I'm surprised nobody died. But out of nowhere, and of course, Amon was getting the upper hand because he was bigger than all that on in the eye, and that kind of brings everything to a close. Of course, we go on to the next scene where the kids are all being taken to the king and the family, and everybody's fighting. Like, what happened? And this, honey, is when well, hell broke loose with the kids, and now it's about to break loose with the adults. Ooh, child. So now everybody is before the king, honey. Alicent, Rhaenyra, everybody is there. Chaos is taking about. Viserys tells everybody to, quiet down. Let's get down to the bottom of this. He asks, what the hell happened. The children, they're blaming Alicent's kids are blaming Rhaenyra's children, of course, because they're the ones who cut Aemon. But Aemon also, he started it. Let's face it, he started it. He attacked them first, and Rhaenyra's son Viserys was defending himself. That's what happened. Of course, Alicent wants blood, honey. She wants an eye for an eye, honey. Basically saying, look, Viserys, King Viserys, this is your son. He just lost an eye. Something needs to be done. And of course, Rhaenyra is screaming bloody murder, talking about her son's legitimacy was thrown into question. Well, we all know, let's face it, that her kids is not by her husband. They don't look Targaryen. They don't look Valerian. They don't have any of the features, the hair, the eyes, nothing. But she's steady standing on that. So we see the bullshit that Rhaenyra is on. But be that as it may, this is something that has been accepted. The king's own words said never to question Rhaenyra's children's legitimacy. So nothing of the truth at this point does not even matter because the king's word is the king's word, and that's the point. That is the point of the matter. Okay, so King Viserys even he asked Aemon, he said, who, because Rhaenyra says that the children let her know that they were called bastards. Viserys says, well, who started this rumor? Where did you hear this spell? So whatever. And, he's looking at Allison, but he wouldn't dare say his mom's name. So he said Aegon. He said his brother did. So Viserys questions his brother, and his brother, Aegon is just like, look at them. Come on. It's not, I mean, this is obvious here. They don't look anything like the rest of us. And to be honest, they didn't. They just don't. But King Viserys, being just the loving person that he is, he understands the situation. But he also loves his daughters and he loves his grandkids. And so he's playing blind and he wants everybody else to play blind. And he starts to go on a rampage telling the family, listen, everybody in this room is blood. And all this infighting needs to stop. We're family. And, you're anybody, he says it flat out. Anybody that questions the legitimacy of Rhaenyra's kids, honey, their tongue, honey, is gonna be cut out of their heads. And then you see Allison over there taking a big gulp because we all know she's really, and this is once again, y'all, she is really the one who put that trash into her son's head. Now we all know that. We all know that. She's been making comments about the children not looking like um Rhaenyra's husband, Laenor, out all willy-nilly in the public. She made a comment that, they asked where Lanar was, and she made a comment about he's probably out chasing one of the squires around. She's just bold with it. She is not the same Allison that we first met, that innocent, sweet young girl. She is no longer that. She is a force to be contended with, honey. And I would dare to say that we could all see Rhaenyra for what she is. A manipulator, a liar, a spoiled Targaryen. I wouldn't say I don't know. I don't sense necessarily evilness from her yet, but Allison is not far behind, honey. I can tell you that. All right, so Allison is not having it, honey. Allison is like, listen, my son just lost an eye. Something need to be done. So she loses her shit, honey. She grabs that dagger from the king's wayside. And you see Damon step in. Damon is so demonic. Damon steps in and stops the King Guard from getting involved, from stopping the two women from going at each other. Because you see that Allison is headed straight for Rhaenyra. Of course, Rhaenyra can handle herself. And she calls Allison out, like, okay, glad to see your true colors are showing, honey. And Allison, cuts Rhaenyra. She steps forward and then pulls back, and she pulls down and she cuts Rhaenyra's arm. Okay, and you see the family. The image is very powerful because you see half of the family on one side standing behind Allison and the other half standing behind Rhaenyra. So you see where this is going. There is going to soon be the dance of the dragons, honey, the greens against the blacks. So after this scene, um, later on we see, her father, the king's hand, Ortho Hightower, coming in to talk to her, saying, listen, you need to talk to your husband, honey, because you done effed up. Okay, you need to take this one. You done effed up. You done cut his daughter. You need to go make apologies and claim that it's all about your son, honey. But one thing I will say about her son, Aemon, who is now going to be known from now on as Aemon, the one-eyed Kingslayer, honey, the Kinslayer. And we're going to find out more about that in this next episode, honey. But We now know why he's called the one-eye Amond, okay? He said, because Alicent was so pissed, he said, "Do not mourn me, mother." What he got was by getting Vhagar, he lost the eye, but he gained a dragon. And not only did he gain a dragon, he gained the dragon, the most powerful, strongest dragon of all the land. So that was very powerful and very mature of him. But we will soon find out, honey, that he has no intentions of just letting this go. And I think we're going to see that in the episode tonight, episode 8. So moving on along, then we have Rhaenyra approaching Damon with the proposal of marriage, honey. Basically saying that she wants to free Laenor, and that's pretty much what they discussed. They set up some kind of fake ass fight, and they set the body on fire so it could be unrecognizable, and that his parents would believe that he was dead. In all actuality, him and his lover got away on a boat somewhere. So she freed Laenor from this life because he was not happy, and neither was she. It was truly a marriage. I wouldn't even say of convenience, but to make everyone else happy except them. They were both miserable. But without her having any, you know, husband by her side at this time, she felt that her succession could always be questioned. But with Damon by her side, she felt like she was more solid. And in all actuality, there is truth in that. Because the high towers, we see the high towers means business, honey. Allison is marrying her 2 kids together. She already got her father there sitting up on the throne, honey, because let's face it, the king is getting old. And so as his hand, he's making a lot of decisions for the king. The high towers are making moves and making moves fast. So Rhaenyra is no fool. She realizes that she has to make moves too, and she does it with her uncle Damon, and he agrees. They have a wedding. This incestuous blood of blood and my blood, and they cutting each other and all this and that. They have a traditional Targaryen, old Valyrian wedding. I don't know what to call it. A lot of this incest stuff really turns my stomach. But so they do that. Um, and you can tell. Well, I don't want to do too much spoilers. We're gonna see tonight. We're gonna see episode 8 tonight. But I think there's gonna be some more age jumping. We could see from the previews of episode 8 that the children are older. It even looks as if Rhaenyra might be with Damon's child. So we will see that in the future. Um, Rhaenyra and the High Towers are playing the game, honey, the game of the thrones. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already, remember to hit that like button, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys soon with another video. Peace.